This is Amy Lee Carlson from SÖLICITÖR, and you are listening to What's Metal.
Yeah, Amy, welcome to Göppingen, Rock City. Finally, you made it.
Finally!
after like 5 years, five and a half
6 years.
Yeah, yeah. I remember you were supposed to play here in 2020, but of course the show or the tour back then were canceled due to obvious reason. We all know. So I'm really glad that you made it tonight, that the show could take place, because we're now, the interview is now taking place after the show, and oh my God, what a show, what an energy, that was sweaty as hell, of course, even if it's not summer, like summer anymore, it wasn't that hot, but it was sweaty as hell. So how was it for you? How do you feel after the show?
You know, it's so wonderful to be able to play a smaller show overseas, because oftentimes, you know, being a band invited over here to play a festival or something, it's either a one-off, like Hell Over Hammerberg was for us, or, 2023 we toured with Hellstar for Keep It True as support, but we were playing larger stages, larger venues, and it's so much fun to be able to be in your fucking face and like right there with you in the crowd and interact in that way, because that's what we're all about. We love to rock out with our friends and our fans.
Yeah, we love it too. We love it that way. And you're now back in Europe for a few concerts, but is it actually a proper tour that you're making, or how is it going so far, and where will you be performing?
It's more of a couple of one-offs. We played Perennial Warriors Open Air on Saturday. Of course, we played Goppingen tonight, and then Saturday, on the 20th, we'll be playing in Italy for In the Best Tradition Fest Volume 2 in Martinsicuro
Martinsicuro is called. Yeah, I know that. I know that. Some of my friends will be
there. It's spelled a little funny,
yeah.
but I'm trying, I promise. But Martinsicuro, and it's gonna be awesome. I think it's gonna be a really good time. But
So you're having a couple of free days.
Days.
Are you planning anything? Are you just traveling?
We're traveling. We're gonna do some sightseeing. We were originally hoping to have more shows and a much more proper tour, but with the album taking as long as it did, it was difficult to plan ahead. So we're happy to be here in Germany for this smaller show. We're happy to be here just to play these festivals and make the best of it and take our time.
That's great. And are there any countries that you're playing the first time? I mean, Italy, I guess?
France and Italy are the first time. Yeah,
okay.
So France was the first time, and this will be our first time in Italy. We hope to make a good enough impression, of course, to be invited back.
You will, for sure.
And, to even be back in Europe for the second time this year is amazing. So nothing's taken for granted, that's for sure.
Great. So, and for our listeners who don't know SÖLICITÖR yet, can you tell us more about how the band came to life and who inspired your music, just briefly?
So initially, the band was inspired by the likes of Hellstar, Liege Lord, and Merciful Fate. Matthew Vogan and I started this band based off of our previous band breaking up. We were in a band called Substratum. The guys were in another band called Hexengeist. And those bands both split up around the same time in Seattle in late 2018. And then by end of 2018, beginning of 2019, we had formed our current lineup. We had put out a 2-song demo, and then later a 4-song EP that included those first 2 songs. So that's what got us over here initially, which is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. And now your second album, called Enemy Mirrors, will be released on September 19.
Yes, this coming Friday.
Exactly, next Friday, via Cruz del Sur, Gates of Hell
yes,
Records.
Correct.
Yeah. And what can we expect from the new album? How has your sound evolved compared to the previous album?
Well, things are certainly much darker, much more melodic. Still just as blisteringly fast, but there's some more dynamic to the songwriting. There's, of course, a very long gap between the 2 releases, and we've had a lot of time to grow, and a lot of time to kind of figure out where we fit in this ever-changing world of heavy metal as we know it, right? And I think this record is very much reflective of that. Spectral Devastation was kind of like a time capsule. It came together very quickly after the formation of the band. We knew that we were invited to Europe at that point. We wanted to make sure that we had a record that was going to do well, to tour on, to play overseas. And with all of the uncertainty of the pandemic and COVID and all of that, I think some of that is also reflected in this record as we finally come to a close with it.
And as you mentioned, it's more dynamic than the previous album. And I have to say, when I listened to the first single, I had the impression that it was even faster, even angrier, I wanted to say, than its predecessor. And is my impression correct?
There's certainly some tracks on there that I think people will find as a natural evolution of our previous sound, or the sound that we've established. And it's still very aggressive, it's still very in your face. But there are some songs also that are bringing a darker element to things, a darker emotion. There's a lot of distance and almost a lot of falling apart in ways, right? And coming back together. And I'm hoping that is carried through in some of these other tracks.
Were there any significant events that influenced the creation of Enemy in Mirrors, sorry.
We've been through a lot as a band, and as friends, and as people. And I think any band that's been together for more than a couple of years can say that. Your priorities change, your attitudes change, everything changes. And if you're not on the same page, things don't always go as planned, right? But it takes effort, and it takes time, and it takes a reunification to bring things back together again.
Yeah, and as you already mentioned, exactly, the previous album was really, Spectre Devastation was released 5 years ago.
Right.
So it took time, indeed. It was released also via Cruz de Sur, Cruz de Sur, Gates of Hell.
Sure.
And what happened? Did something happen in the between the release of the new two albums, or were there obstacles in the way of writing new songs?
I mean, there certainly were. I live several hours away from the rest of the band, but at the same time, that's a sacrifice that I've been willing to make the entire time. There were times where we weren't getting along, things weren't happening at the pace that we wanted. There was misunderstandings, things of that nature. But again, here we are, same lineup, together overseas, playing the songs that we wrote together, and that's what matters to me right now.
Yeah, that's all that matters in the end. And how did you get in touch with the Italian label Cruz del Sur, and how did your cooperation start?
So Cruz del Sur reached out to us shortly after our previous band Substratum had split up. So Substratum had 2 full-length records and an EP that we had released independently, and Cruz del Sur had reached out to us at some point in late 2018. And unfortunately, that band was no longer together, and we had no plans to perform any further. However, we were able to send them the demo, and they said, "Okay, this is different, but this is amazing. Let's try this out." And so, Gates of Hell picked us up and released the EP for us on vinyl later in 2019. So.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah. Everything in 2019 and 2020, everything came together very quickly.
Very quickly, yeah.
Very quickly. I mean, 2018, our bands break up. End of 2019, a couple months later, beginning of 2019, we have a demo. We have an EP. We play Chicago Legions of Metal. Someone live streams that to people here in Germany. We get invited to play Keep It True. The vinyl is set to come out. And then we're in the studio recording Spectral Devastation by the end of 2019 so that we can rush it out the door in time to play Keep It True in 2020. And then COVID happens. So
many things were happening all together. And did you realize what was happening or not really?
I don't think any of us really fully appreciated what was happening at the time. And I think that also is something that contributed to the length of time that it took to finally complete the second album, because we were still figuring out what the hell happened in 2020, right? Yeah. And it took some time to come back from that, for sure.
Yeah. And you've played at major metal festivals in the US,
Yes.
such as Hell's Heroes, for example, just to mention one.
Yeah.
And also at European festivals, such as Keep It True, for example. Do you think that audience in Europe the audience reacts differently than those in the US? And if yes, what do you think are the biggest differences?
The audiences in Europe are far more responsive than the audiences in the United States in the way that they treat the bands with much more respect and enthusiasm. Where, like, for example, here, everyone wants you to sign things, everyone wants to take photos with you, everyone wants to know what you're up to next and when you'll be back. In the United States, you might sell a lot of merch, you might have an excellent, crowd, you might have a big pit, you might have, there might be things happening, but people might not talk to you afterwards. Not always the case. It depends on the nature of the festival. But, like Hell's Heroes is very large. So you can expect a lot of interaction there. But then you have smaller festivals like Blades of Steel in Wisconsin, or Legions of Metal in Chicago, or even Metal Immortal, which used to happen in Pittsburgh. There's other festivals like Frozen in Time, or Soldiers of Steel, even Northwest Terror Fest. You get crowds of anywhere between 300 to 1,200, right? And it feels very much like family, which Perennial Warriors Open Air was very much like family. So there are some commonalities, but also some differences. And I think the main difference is the interaction you have with the crowd afterwards.
Okay, cool. Cool. I didn't expect that, to be honest.
No.
Maybe you were talking about the reaction when you play, or
No.
that's interesting.
No.
Interesting.
We like our fans.
Yeah, that's great. Where do you find inspiration for writing new songs? Or what about the topics of the lyrics, just in general?
I think in 2020, we very much wanted to write things that were similar but not the same. Themes that you find in a lot of speed and thrash metal. You've got your war, you've got your party times, you've got your spooky shit, you've got there's a little bit of everything in there, right? But
spooky shit, that's
spooky
great definition, of course.
Spooky shit, like, I don't know, demons, devils, and crap like that. Motorcycles. You could kind of go down the list and go, okay, check this one off, check that one off. And with Spectral Devastation, we certainly did that. With this one, it was much more personal, and it was with Enemy and Mirrors, the lyrics are much more narrative. It's much more so from the first person, some second person, but it kind of goes into just a darker place, just a darker state of mind.
So they're more kind of introspective,
in a way.
Say.
Introspective, reflective, and it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Does Solicitor feel like it's part of this so-called new wave of traditional heavy metal scene, or would you say that there is a proper scene in this context, or movement?
I mean, there's definitely a movement, and I can't say that it hasn't benefited us, right? But I don't think we sound like any of those bands. We're not trying to sound like Enforcer. We're not trying to sound like Ambush or Stallion or any of the bands that I would classify as new wave of true heavy metal, right? We're definitely our own animal at this point. And that's not to say that we're not thankful for what that label has done for us and the people that are attracted to that style of music. What that means for us moving forward in the future, I don't know if that's a label that we'll continue to ascribe to.
Do you have any favorites from that scene, let's call it like that, or any band from France that you would like to recommend?
Oh man, I mean, there's a handful of bands that we've toured with, like CX for one. Of course, they're speed metal from Massachusetts. Taking it back old school to Seattle and San Diego days, Skeletor, of course, is is a classic band, which we're very good friends with. Oh gosh, Riot City, of course, who we hadn't seen. We just played with them last week, but we hadn't seen them since 2019, and they're just good friends. And bands like that are just balls to the wall, up there 10 out of 10 every single fucking time, even when they feel like shit. I mean, it's Savage Master, of course, are very good friends of ours, and we love them. And even sitting here in Zille, there's so many bands that we know, like Armory from Sweden are good friends of ours. Year the Cobra is a doom band from Seattle. We love the fucking Mentors.
Yeah.
I mean, Ecstasy and Venator and like even fucking the Canic Tyrants and Iron Kingdom we played with a number of times.
Almost everyone played
Glacier, amazing. Yeah. Like all of these guys, we've played with all of these guys. Mega Colossus, we almost played with. I mean, I'm looking around. Black Mass, we played with in Philadelphia. There was a festival. It was short-lived called Street Metal Massacre, and we played the second year. And it was like Black Mass and Bone Hunter and fucking Whiplash. And so it was outdoors originally. I've got a crazy story. The festival was outdoors. We played at like 3 p.m. And then Bitch goes on. And Betsy Bitch is rocking out doing her thing. And the cops get called. And the show gets canceled. And so the last 3 bands have to go play at this fucking crazy weird dance nightclub. Like on the edge of town. Like on the wrong side of the train tracks, like just shitty. And so Whiplash is on, and there's a disco dance floor that lights up, and it's lighting up while they're playing, like lighting up along to the drums. So it's just flashing dance floor, disco party lights, a big disco ball. It was amazing. It was the best time. So but it's shit like that.
At least the show could go on.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was going to be the site of the after party, and they were like, well, fuck it. We'll just throw the rest of the bands on there, and everyone go to the photo club. It was awesome.
Amazing.
It was awesome.
Yeah. And how do you feel about being the front woman of a heavy metal band? Do you think that the role of the woman in metal has changed in recent years?
It better be fucking changing. Yeah. I'm just here to sing heavy metal, man. I love heavy metal, and no one can stop me. And I'd like to see you try.
Amazing. Great. Who is your biggest inspiration as a singer? Is there anyone who at some point in your life made you say, I want to sing in a heavy metal band?
I can always name the greats. There's always going to be Ronnie James Dio. There's always going to be Rob Halford. I could even say so much for Bruce Dickinson, right? Like the big guys, But I really love James Rivera from Hellstar. The King is Dead. When I heard that song, I was like, oh man, obviously Leather Leone of Chastain. I've had the chance to meet her and talk with her, and the power that she has in her voice, the gravitas to her voice, the drama that she can carry is just so amazing, and it just makes you feel things. But then also, I think of bands like Ashbury, and I think of bands like Wishbone Ash, who they just have these beautiful vocal melodies, and it just rides along with the music, and it just carries the mood of the song. And as a performer, not just a vocalist, that's what I want to evoke. I want to evoke feelings, and I want to make people move their bodies. And there's a handful of heavy metal inspirations, rock inspirations out there that I don't think I could live without.
Great. And what about your look? Are the leather belts and the crowns you wear, are they made by Babe Finder General herself?
So I wear stuff from a couple of different people. So obviously I have Babe Finder General, which is my leather company. I've also worn stuff made by Shock Power Leather, formerly known as Bellatrix Armor. I've worn stuff by Midnight Leather, also based out of LA. As well as Metal Devastation, who sells on eBay. And I love leather. I'm like Rob Halford in that way. I love leather. I wear leather all the time. It doesn't matter if I'm on stage or not. It's part of how I dress every day. And there's a crossover between like heavy metal, punk, and like queer life, right? And there's a lot happening there. So The leather look is very much a part of my life, and I like to bring my life to the stage.
Exactly. I wanted to ask you in that context, how important is your look in terms of being yourself and expressing yourself fully? And is it just part of the show, or is it also part of your everyday life?
It's both. It's both. I mean, there are days where I would happily just sit back in my pajamas and a Van t-shirt and not give a fuck about anything. But if I'm going out, if I'm having fun, if I'm with my friends, if I'm getting ready to play a show, it doesn't matter. I look like this. I look like this every day.
That's
You can
great.
see me walking down the street and I look like this. And it's what I feel comfortable in. And it's an extension of myself. It's an extension of my personality and my mood. But it's also, in a way, an armor, that protects me from the outside world and makes me feel a little less affected by people or ideas that would seek to, get under my skin or cause me harm.
Great. Enough talking about metal. I have an off-topic question for you.
Yes.
I have been following you on social media for a couple of years now, and I really enjoy your posts about your garden.
Yeah.
And since you have such a beautiful garden, and you seem to be completing your element there.
Yes.
So, do you have any tips on how to grow plants, fruits, and vegetables?
Oh man. Okay. So. Okay, I don't know if you understand what can of worms you just opened here. It all comes back to soil. I'm a nerd about soil. And
Okay.
I try, because I keep chickens and I garden a lot. I have a lot of space. I'm very lucky to have as much space as I do. I am very adamant about building up my soil biology and my compost. And so everything that I grow, if it isn't diseased, if it doesn't have weeds in it, it goes right back into the compost and it gets folded right back into the soil for next year. And I've had to move a little bit these last few years. Things have been a little chaotic, but I still manage to make things happen. And it's that perfect relationship of soil, water, sun, and patience. Nothing's ever going to come right away. You have to work with the seasons. You have to work with the weather that you're thrown. I mean, it's a moment of zen. It's a moment of time that I get to enjoy, knowing that it's only temporary, right? Because when you're living this crazy life of like, I'm gonna travel this way over halfway across the world and go play a festival for a weekend, and then I'm gonna go on tour, and then I'm gonna run merch, and then I'm gonna work a bunch of crazy hours at a bar. You need a place of zen. You need a place to sit and calm down. And my place is in the garden. I love flowers. I love animals. I love bees. I'm kind of a heavy metal hippie.
Nice definition, of course.
And if there's going to be a 50-50 in my life, it's half the stage, half the yard.
So the chicken that you have tattooed on your hand also represents that part of you,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly.
Awesome. Back to the main topic now.
Sure.
What can fans expect from SÖLICITÖR in the coming years? Will your music keep the same in-your-face attitude, and are you planning another tour in the near future?
Well, we're hoping for some upcoming tours yet to be announced. We have yet to see what's coming up with that. The album officially releases on Friday, which is only a couple of days from today. So we will see how it's received. It is different from Spectral Devastation, but it's not so different that I don't think it will alienate people, right? Sophomore albums have a lot of pressure, and it's hard to deliver, because it's like a catch-22, right? Like, you either deliver something that sounds just like your first record, if you're like, oh, they didn't break enough boundaries, or they didn't do anything new, or you do something that's new and they're like, oh, it doesn't sound like the old stuff. It's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't, go fuck yourself. So I'm sure there's plenty that people will enjoy, and the response so far has been really good. There was one review though, and a guy gave us 5 out of 10. And in his review, he said, I only listened to the first 2 songs and nothing else. And I'm like, well, you'd lost your job. Bye. But no, it's fine. It's I want this to do well, and I think it will do well. And I think as things come together, we'll have more to announce.
Great. One last question for you.
Sure.
The show is called What's Metal? So what is metal for you? Is it something you can describe?
Oh, metal is power. Metal is fire and lightning and thunder. Metal is the extension of yourself that you don't get to express. Metal is the heaviest fucking thing in the universe.
I love that.
And you get to pick it up and throw it around and throw it in people's faces.
I absolutely love that. Great. Then thanks a lot for your time, Emmy.
Thank you very much, Giulia.